Well, are we going to war? Aren't we? What's going on with the conflict in the West? It seems no one can really figure it out because there is a battle of rhetoric going on. Russia says it has been withdrawing troops from the Ukrainian border. In fact, they were there for military exercises. That happens on a regular basis. And Putin said just yesterday in a meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz that we have begun de-escalation. We already have begun withdrawing troops. NATO and the United States says, no, you're not. We don't believe you. You have not actually been doing that. You've been putting more troops. And it's interesting to listen to mainstream media and watch the news and realize that even journalists are not exactly sure who to believe at this point.
Well, it's amazing. Like, just look at this Politico piece from just released just a few minutes ago. It says, the key time frame to watch for the prospect of a Russian invasion of Ukraine is shortly after February 20th, analysts say. This is the new headline from Politico, released just a few minutes ago. Why?
Because originally the day was February 16th, which has come and gone.
They say that in the piece. The prospect of a Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 16th was always overhyped. Oh, really? Did Politico, did you report that it was overhyped and we should ignore it? No. The time frame to really keep an eye on is what happened shortly after February 20th. Why?
Why this arbitrary date? A good question.
Right.
Because, again, the conflict was over whether or not the Ukraine would join NATO. It had nothing else to do with any kind of supply chain or any other escalation. Ukraine is not actively seeking membership with NATO. NATO is not actively recruiting Ukraine. And so why?
Well, and here's this same reporter, this Alex Ward, who in this other piece says it was always overhyped, right? It was always overhyped.
Yet he wrote the same story.
So here was his piece on talking about the February 16th date. Let's see if in here there's anything about overhyping. Let me just do a search for the word hype. I don't see any word hype in here.
Or February 20th. Did he seem to report that it could be then or February 20th?
No, again, this is the kind of crap that they foist upon us on
it's
a regular
like a credit card where they're getting a late fee for not going to war on the 16th.
Well, and also, where in the heck are they? They're saying there's 200,000 troops. There's 150,000 troops. They just added 7,000 more troops. Like, where are these numbers coming from? Because Russia doesn't know.
Right, like yesterday on the show, we talked about Dmitry Polyansky, who is the minister for Russia, basically saying, where are these numbers coming from? I've seen reports of 100, like as Russians, we have 100,000 troops there. He's like, that's just a random Western number that they threw out there. Then I saw 150,000, and then I saw 200,000 in an article the next day, like it goes from 100 to 105, then it was 150, then it was 200,000 Russian troops are along the border. Now, Russia says we have no intention of invading. We never have. We gave you heads up that we were doing these exercises back 5 months ago. We told you back in November we were going to start these exercises.
Well, I saw an article saying that another 7,000 came today. Like, it's like, what? Like, where does that come from? Like, is the
Biden administration said that specifically, right?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Russia has been releasing media showing troops like getting on trains and moving away. But the United States sort of preemptively warned the world that whatever videos we saw out of Russia may be fake. They said that just 2 weeks ago when the AP reporter had a conflict with the State Department and said, where's your proof that they're making fake videos? And he said, the proof is that I'm saying it out loud to you right now. And so was that the United States giving us a warning not to believe anything we see out of Russia in the future, right? It seems a bit too convenient at this point. And it's hard to know what to believe.
And it's hilarious coming from these guys who, as you mentioned, here is the guy you're talking about, Ned Price from the State Department, who was giving that speech about we expect to see Russian fake videos and all this sorts of stuff. And the AP reporter was questioning him, saying, hey, I've been around a long time. Like, I saw you guys lie to us about getting into Iraq. I saw you lie to us about getting into Syria. I saw you lie to us about getting into to Afghanistan, on and on and on. Like, we're going to keep listening to you. And now he just came out yesterday and says this. Now Ned Price is saying U.S. is accusing Moscow of creating Ukrainian invasion pretext with these genocide claims. What they're saying is that in the Donbass region of Ukraine, that, it's really bad there, and the Ukrainian people are killing Russian loyalists in the Donbass region of Ukraine. So this is why we're going to invade. So that's what the State Department is now saying. They're now saying now that Moscow is going to claim genocide, and that's why we're going to invade them.
Meanwhile,
as Dmitry said,
sorry.
Real quick,
Please.
as Dmitry said that, they do this drill. They've done it before. So the U.S. would know that they were going to withdraw those troops at some point to move them back from their training, right? So maybe that's what they were saying. Like, these are going to be propaganda films showing us that they're retreating because they knew that would happen because it happened last time they did these drills.
Yeah, that would stand to reason. Today, European leaders are meeting with an eye towards de-escalation. I think European leaders initially had signaled their support for what the Biden administration and NATO wanted, which does seem to be an escalation in the region. But now they're realizing, we are heavily dependent on Russia for foreign imports. And we do not want a conflict that will cost us lives and also opportunity cost for buying oil, right, and energy. And so now they continue to say, now we've had this news out of France, right? Macron has already met with Putin. Now Germany has met with Putin. Now all European leaders are coming together. Europe really does seem to want to de-escalate this, while at the same time not upset their friend, the United States, that does not seem to want the same thing.
Well, and there's a lot of European leaders who don't believe the United States anymore. I mean, at all. In fact, the Czech president was asked about this in an interview. I read the transcript of his interview, and here he is, the Czech president of the Czech Republic.
You can read that?
Miloš Zeman. Yeah, I can read Czech.
Oh.
In my spare time, I've been reading
wow, honey.
Practicing.
So much I don't know about you.
Just trying to impress my wife. Doing my best. It's not working. So I read the English translation of this newspaper in this interview with the Czech president, and in it he says that he where did I pull up? I have his clip here. He basically says that he doesn't believe what NATO is saying, and they have lied to us repeatedly. He's basically saying they've lied to us repeatedly. The first time was in Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction, he said. None were found. The second time they lied to us was in Afghanistan, when they claimed that the Taliban would never conquer Kabul. And the third is now this, he says, Russia. And he's basically saying, Washington keeps warning and warning and warning about these Russian invasions, preparing military invasions. And he's like, I'm skeptical, and this has failed to materialize. And the U.S. has a terrible track record, so we're not going to listen to you anymore.
Well, and
that's not going to get much traction in the U.S.
We have been wanting a war with Russia since Kennedy. Like, they tried to force a war with Russia then, and he
before
and
that
he stopped
even
it.
NATO was actually formed in order to stop Russia from continuing to gain more land when Russia took over the Czech Republic due to a military coup. I was just reading a history book about this now, and I was reading a biography about Salazar in Portugal. And when Salazar was offered the opportunity to be a founding member of NATO, he originally said, well, I think that this Soviet expansion is a temporary problem. He wasn't that worried about it, but the United States really was, to the point where they decided to start NATO. They invited some world leaders, and they said, you will all be able to collaborate on the founding documents and the terms of NATO. And then by the time Salazar got his sign-up papers, he wasn't offered any opportunity to edit them, and he was upset about it. And they said, we felt that time was of the essence because Russia just gained land without war. They were specifically upset that Russia had won the Czechoslovakia at the time without a war, just with a military coup. And they thought, that's unacceptable. We need to make sure we have a treaty that no one else gives their land to Russia without war. I mean, I guess the idea was you needed to fight for it. And Salazar did not want to join NATO with a 20-year commitment. He wanted to just dip his toe in for 10 years, and that was a non-starter. So NATO was formed to fight Russia. Always. That's kind of their thing.
Lisa Pettit in our chat says, I swear this is so... Lisa Pettit in our chat says, I swear this is so convenient that we're focusing on war now that COVID numbers are way down. Mainstream media has to have something to sensationalize. Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Lisa. I mean, CNN's numbers skyrocketed during COVID.
Actually, though, we were watching Bloomberg this morning over breakfast, and I felt like the news anchors on Bloomberg were just as confused as the rest of us.
No, that's why I talk often here on this channel how I like Bloomberg. I read Bloomberg News. I think they've got journalists all around the world, so they don't just give an American spin on it.
Yeah.
And, even Anne-Marie Horton, she is a Washington reporter. She spent like 15 years overseas before going back to and living in Washington, D.C. She just tweeted this a short time ago. New from Russia. She's a Bloomberg reporter. She says, Lavrov says Russia will respond to U.S. security proposals today and will make the letter public. Kremlin says U.S. claims on new troops near Ukraine are unfounded. Takes time for troops to return to base after drills. So this is a Bloomberg reporter saying, hey, like, this is what's going on here. Don't get your feathers in a ruffle. Like, we're getting boots on the ground information. Like, no, the Kremlin is saying the U.S. claims on these new troops near the Ukraine are unfounded. They're full of crap.
Yeah. So any news media taking one side or the other is not actually doing you any service. And I appreciated the anchor this morning who was talking to her world security experts and saying, who do we believe here? Are we right to be skeptical? I think that those are absolutely the questions without drawing any conclusions, unless you're there, which I am not.
Right. And now we do have some reports this morning, and it is to bring up these pieces of it. So we don't have independent confirmation of this other than a journalist who's a Ukrainian journalist in Ukraine saying that this happened. Now, to have like independent verification of that, we don't have it. And it seems
be
a
a
little
crisis actor.
Well, it seems a little convenient. I'm gonna show you this reporting, and you tell me what you think of this. Okay, so this is what was just reported about an hour ago. Okay, kindergarten in Stanislav, I don't know how to say it, in Luhanska in Ukraine right now. Direct artillery hit. Children were there. Now, bear in mind this is before school hours, so I don't buy that part of it. Children were there. This happened before school starts in Europe, so I don't know why children would be in a kindergarten at like 4 a.m. But anyway, waiting for confirmation about 2 adults with a contusion, 4 kids injured, and perhaps, maybe, right? So then independent, separate reporting on this from Olga, who's a Ukrainian journalist. She says Russian forces hit a kindergarten in this region with artillery fire today. Now, how does she know they're Russian forces, by the way? There are reports of injuries, heavy shelling of Ukraine's government-controlled territory by Donbass by Russian proxy forces reported this morning. So much about de-escalation. So she says right there at the end, I mean, so how do you, first of all, know that it's Russian forces? I'd love to know that. And why in the world would they target a kindergarten at 4 a.m?
Right. That's what I was going to ask. Like, what military sense does that make? Zero.
I just don't understand that. Okay, but maybe that's the case. I don't know. I find it hard to believe, though. I just find it hard to believe. And I mean,
that's taking a playbook from the United States military.
Well, the U.S. Navy is now saying that Russian planes have flown over international waters in the area. They said it was in an unprofessional way, and I don't know enough about Navy protocol to know what is a professional way.
Like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, where you buzz the tower.
I guess
that's unprofessional. You spill coffee all over yourself. Like, oh, that's unprofessional.
I don't know. We shouldn't be making fun. I'm not exactly sure.
No, but we should be calling attention to and being very skeptical of these guys. I mean, like, look, this is what was just removed. Ukraine envoy just made this post on social media and then deleted the social media post saying Russia must be destroyed. Moscow voiced concerns over the safety of its diplomatic mission into Montenegro on Thursday after a Ukrainian consul posted and then deleted a message under a hashtag calling for the destruction of Russia. And then the Ukrainian envoy deleted it.
Look,
Okay.
this is the problem. We always listen to what these people say. When they were talking about going to war with Iraq, they had zero proof. It was 100% their word, and we believed them. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. We went to war, and there was nothing there. And these are the same people doing this again.
Yeah, and this is why you have the president of the Czech Republic saying, I don't believe it, and blasting the CIA, basically saying the CIA is a bunch of liars. I don't believe them. I'm a president of this country, and the United States continues to lie. They lie on a regular basis. And why should we believe them this time?
But I think we should be careful with our rhetoric here because we don't know. So we should not buy it hook, line, and sinker, but we shouldn't say outright it's not true.
No. So what don't we know? That's a really good question, right? We were told that there would be a massive invasion on the 16th of February.
Well, we know that didn't happen.
Right.
Okay.
So we know that didn't happen, but we were told that it was going to happen. Right.
Yes.
So the track record, that's 1-0, right? So President Biden and the CIA telling us that an invasion was imminent, a massive invasion was imminent, right? We heard that from European NATO leaders. You better stock up on food.
Yes.
We heard that from Boris Johnson.
Get Americans out.
Get Americans out, right? All of that. That we know for sure. Did it happen? No. So then we see this report of this kindergarten being hit, and we don't know who actually did it. But this journalist who's there nearby just says without proof, like, how do you know that was Russian forces?
Well, we don't even know where that school is. They pull pictures in all the time from something that has nothing to do with something. So it's like, how are we supposed to believe a picture like that is even in Russia and even in where they're saying it is?
Okay. Neither do we know that Russia is actually de-escalating. We know what words Putin says, presumably because of translators, right? Where he says Europe will be brought into this war that you don't even want and it will cost you dearly. We know he doesn't think it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. We know European leaders don't want it. So what we know for sure is that United States is keeping everyone on high alert.
Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, even if this happened, even if they are there with troops, even if all of this is happening exactly the way they're saying it is, we shouldn't be there. It's none of our business.
Yeah. I mean, again, if it's a NATO issue and NATO is there as an extension of the United States, that's all
Which
NATO
it
is. NATO is almost fully funded by the United States. It's, make no mistake about it, it's the United States under a different name. That's all it is. It's a military-industrial complex mechanism so that when the United States defense budget is one big piece, then there's a huge, massive NATO defense budget as well, that NATO gets money. And then also the United Nations forces. Think about how much money the military-industrial complex gets.
I mean, it exists to prevent governments that the United States doesn't like. Mm-hmm. That's why it was formed, right? That's really it. So of course it makes sense why the United States would want to continue to collect membership. And it absolutely makes sense why other countries would not want this, right?
Well, especially Russia, since it was formed.
If you put it that way, though, then it is our business, whether we like it or not. We as Americans don't have to like it. I don't, right?
But we should be questioning everything.
This is the government we've got that loves
war,
exporting our ways, and is willing to, fundraise on that. And so I'm not saying it's right. I don't think it's right. But this is the rationale for being there. So when you say we shouldn't be there, well, we should because of who we are. Like, that's kind of our thing. Bullies bully. So absolutely we should be there. We shouldn't be bullies, but we
have a check mark on our tax forms that if we whatever citizens want to support that, the NATO and the wars and all that other stuff, we should be able to select a box and say, okay, yes, I support that. Otherwise, I don't pay those taxes.
It wouldn't
because
be possible.
55% or more of our taxes go to that.
Yeah,
I would
wouldn't it be
vote
nice?
no.
You know, when you're on a website where it says we have third-party cookies, do you want to opt in or opt out? It's like, I always opt out. Like, I don't want people tracking me, you know? We should be able to do that as voters. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.